So guys, this year has been a terrible year for ticks. There's been an abundance of rain and the ticks have multiplied and overpopulated, but the contents of this bottle right here will protect you from any ticks getting on you, biting you, and possibly causing a serious problem in your future. My property is surrounded by heavily forested areas, and so there's always ticks finding their way into my yard, but this product right here keeps them off of me. It's really safe, it's really simple to make, and it's very, very safe for your family. So let's head into the potting shed and I'll show you exactly how to make this really simple recipe. So guys, I love experimenting with different recipes around the garden for the vegetables, for things like insect control or whatever it might be. And today I created a 12-page booklet specifically around this topic. Now, only one recipe I'm showing you today. There's 9 additional recipes for controlling ticks. So what may be in your pantry may not be in someone else's pantry. So there's a total of 10 separate recipes. If you're already a member of the Patreon, a paid member, you can download this free along with many, many other dozens of other PDFs. You can print it out to a hard copy like this, save it to your device, and you can go back and reread it and things like that. So once you have a saved copy, just file it away. That's what I like to do. I guess I'm old-fashioned. I like having a printed copy of everything because I can go back. If I lose my phone or something crashes, I'll always have a copy of it there. So that goes through 10 different recipes of the most effective ways to control ticks on yourself, whether you're camping, hiking, or just working in your garden. So guys, some of the equipment you'll need to make this is either something like a little food processor like this, or coffee grinder, or you can use a mortar and pestle. I mispronounced that once and never lived it down, I don't think. So you're gonna need this for a very specific ingredient. You're gonna need measuring devices, cup, small tablespoon. You're going to need some type of cheesecloth or towel, or you can use as a filter. And also I would recommend getting these glass bottles. I'll put a link in the description, but I really like these because this keeps our recipe from being diluted by sunlight, weakened over time. So I would recommend the glass bottle. Remember, you can just stick this in your backpack or have it in your fridge before you go out to work in your garden, and this will keep ticks off of you when you spray it just a few times on your clothing. It's safe for skin too. And I'm going to give you variations of this specific recipe as well, depending on what the circumstances around your situation. Now, the first of our 3 ingredients are cloves, and cloves have a very unique smell, and ticks absolutely are repelled by this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 tablespoons of whole cloves, and we're going to put it into our coffee grinder, food processor, whatever you want to call that there. I'm just about out of cloves because I use this so often. I buy 3 or 4 of these at one time. I guess I need to start buying it by the larger bag. We're going to take this and we're going to grind it into a fine powder. Now, you can use the mortar and pestle, as I said earlier. It's a little bit more elbow grease, but this makes it super simple, so you can do it in about 60 seconds. And you want to grind these down into a very, very fine powder. You don't want it to be whole pieces. You want to just see a very fine powder. The more finer the powder, the better this is going to work. It's going to give more surface area, and it's going to definitely help repel ticks. It'll put off more aroma with the 2 other things we're mixing this with. So just remember, extremely fine powder, whether you're using it through the manual way or a food processor. Now, this is not quite as fine a powder as I want. I want it to be as fine as possible, almost like maybe close to a baby powder, but not quite that fine. But what I wanted to say is that when you're doing this, whether you're using the mortar and pestle or the food processor or the coffee grinder, make sure you don't breathe any of this in because it can irritate the sinuses quite a bit. So let's go back to grinding and give it another minute or 2. Now, the next ingredient we are using here is just ordinary apple cider vinegar, and we're going to use 1 cup of apple cider vinegar. See if I can mix this up just right, because we don't want to go over 1 cup. And I'm nearly out of it anyway, so I've been making a lot of this lately because tick season is quite intense. Now, what you want to do is you want to take your powdered cloves, and what we're going to do is we're going to pour this into our apple cider vinegar, do a very light mix. I'm going to put a cap on this and let it steep and let it sit in it for about 24 hours. We want to extract as much of those oils out of the cloves as possible. You can go up to 48 hours, but not necessary to go beyond that. So anywhere from 20 to 48 hours. The 48-hour mark, you might get a little bit stronger mix, and it might be a little bit irritating to the skin. So my recommendation is to go right at the 24-hour mark. We're going to put a lid on this, and through the magic of editing, we'll have this ready in just a few seconds. Okay, let's make some room here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to strain the mixture because we want it to be just a liquid. So I'm just going to take the shop towel that I've got, and you can use cheesecloth, whatever you want, but just make sure you strain it well because you can still see there's quite a few particles floating in there. So just slowly let it strain through. I've tripled this. I've folded over 4 times so we can strain as much as we can, and you'll get a much better result. You won't be clogging your small spray bottle. Just keep doing that until you get it all in there. Remember to do a little bit of swirling towards the end because a lot of this settles very quickly. So if you let it sit for 24 hours, it's going to be very settled, a lot of the clove mixture. So as you pour it through the towel, just keep swirling it and get as much of those oils into our final liquid. And there's one more ingredient we're adding. And just remember that we want this as strong as possible. So that 48-hour mark, if you are only spraying on cloves and you don't have to worry about irritating your skin, you can use the 48-hour, but 24-hour if you're spraying directly on the skin, in my opinion. So there we go. We're just going to let that finish off there. And you can double this recipe, triple it or quadruple it, just depending on the size of the spray bottle you have. Now, since this is going to be specifically for skin, we're going to dilute this with some hot water. So I'm going to put our strain mix into a mason jar, and then I'm going to put in 1 cup of hot distilled water, and the heat is going to help it a lot become stronger and more activated. So just remember, distilled pure water or spring water, the cleanest, purest water you can get. The reason we're diluting it is because this is going directly on my skin. Now, I've did patch tests before, but if you do a little patch test on your wrist, make sure you do that before you spray this all over your body or anyone else's, because some people have sensitivities to some things that would not bother one person. They might have a severe effect on others. So remember, do that patch test, wait 24 hours. Now I'm going to seal that up and let that just mix for about 30 minutes. And so there's going to still be one more ingredient, but the water's hot, so we're going to just let that mix and extract as much of the oils and make it as effective as possible. Now, this is an essential oils kit I ordered last year, and I've really found a lot of good uses for it in the recipes I use. One of the things we're using in today's recipe is specifically eucalyptus oil. But if you look through this, look in the description, if you decide you want to get this, there's actually essential clove oil in it, so you could make it even more potent. Or if you didn't want to do the mix, you could experiment with some clove oil. So just remember, I'll put a link in the description if you want to order one of these. It's optional, but you can get eucalyptus oil just about anywhere, most health food stores, grocery stores. So you're going to need roughly about 10 to 20 drops, depending on what your preference is. But I recommend a minimum of 10 drops in our liquid once it's cooled down just a bit. All right, so we've allowed some time to pass and our liquid mix here is cooled down. And again, we're going to put in about 20 drops. Count that off 20 different times. You can just shake these small essential oil bottles. And I believe I'm at 15. All right. And then we want to do a little bit of mixing. So put your lid back on your mason jar and just swirl it around there. So it gives a good mix, and the smell is quite incredible now. Ticks are absolutely repelled by this mixture. All right, and we're going to take our measuring cup, not fill it all the way up because we have a little bit more than I need there to go inside of our small bottle. Again, this particular bottle is glass, and I like glass because I think it's going to preserve it. I would recommend that you put this in your backpack after you refrigerated it, allow it to sit overnight in the refrigerator, and then when you go out on the trail, you'll have this handy and it'll have a nice cooling effect. But just remember, you don't want this sitting out on the counter for a long period of time. You want to use it within less than, I think, 1 week. And I don't see any particles of our cloves. They've all been ground and filtered out quite well. And the smell, even though I'm about 1.5 feet away from it, is quite incredible. You definitely don't want to stop up these little small pumps because it will be hard to use it. And so this is the perfect thing. You can keep this, like I said, in a fridge. If you can keep it in your backpack and use it up all on one trip, that's really a good idea. So that's the simple way to repel ticks. And I'll talk just a little bit about the proper application on skin versus clothing. Now I'm going to put on the screen all the best ways to apply it to your clothing. We'll talk about clothing first. But what you want to do, the essential oil can separate from the other ingredients in there. So each time you use it, just give it about a 5 or 6 vigorous shake there so the essential oils mix well and you get the most potent mix as possible, because if it's diluted, if it's separated and you're spraying from the bottom and it's all floating on the top, you're not going to get a great of an effect for as a tick repellent. Now, as far as ticks go, spraying your clothing, I think it's better to spray towards your pants, your very base, your shoes, your socks, and things like that. Ticks will brush as you walk through the forest in your hiking trip or working in the garden. Ticks often are hiding on small shrubs and bushes. Now, there are cases, and it's not impossible, that ticks could drop from above. A lot of times ticks will end up in a tree because they've climbed up there or they've fallen off a bird or something like that. So yes, ticks can fall from above, but the most common way is they start from grass areas and shrubbery as you walk by and brush up against them. Ticks, there's actually specific types of deer ticks, because deer going through the forest brush up against different types of vegetation and they end up with a lot of ticks, and sometimes it can be quite severe. So just remember, spraying from the waist down is much more important than spraying from the waist up. But you want to spray all of your clothing. Spray it about 6 to 8 inches away, a light misting on those areas. Yes, you'll get used to the smell pretty quickly. If you really hate the smell, try one of the other 9 recipes in the PDF if you want to download that. And you don't have to become a member of the Patreon. You can just buy it outright and you'll have those other recipes as well. But this is my favorite because I personally like the smell of it. Now, as far as applying this to your skin, you want to avoid the eyes, mouth, nose, ears, around your face area, because that can be very irritating to your sinuses. If it gets in your eye, I can tell you apple cider vinegar is not going to feel very good. So we want to avoid the face area. This is more for the extremities, arms, legs, clothing, things like that. Now, you can make the mix much stronger. As I said, you don't have to add the water if you're just spraying clothing. You could spray your tent, your backpacking equipment, your garden clothing, whatever you have. You could do that separate before you put it on if you don't want to add this to your skin. But it's going to have a double duty effect if you do both clothing and skin. So it really will make quite a big difference if you do that before you go hiking or before you head out to the garden. Now, I've got a specific recipe if you want to spray your hiking boots or your work boots that you work around the garden with. It's a lot more concentrated. I'll put that on the screen right here, but remember, this is not for skin or clothing. This is specifically for footwear that's going to repel ticks even better, because a lot of times ticks can be in the grass. So for this footwear recipe, you can make that specifically. You need to label it separately, that you don't accidentally mix up the two, because then it could be a little irritating to the skin because it's a much more concentrated amount. So guys, again, if you don't like the smell of this particular recipe, I have 9 additional tick recipes that work just as well. This just happens to be my personal favorite. Again, in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. You can download this 12-page booklet. It will give you a lot of information about this, a lot more detail. If I put everything that in this guide into the video, we'd be looking at a 45-minute to an hour-long guide. And most people, as I said previously, a lot of times people fall asleep after about 30 minutes of watching my monotone voice. So anyways, guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you have a comment or question, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first. I always filter those to the front of the line because I get so many questions and comments, it's hard to read them all. So guys, at the very least, if you'll just give me a thumbs up if you like the video, that would really help quite a bit. If you want to be a super supporter of the channel, then become a Patreon, and that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.